Hey everybody, it's the Mad Master here. This is like my third attempt at doing this video because I keep like rambling on about other stuff unrelated to the subject of this video. Went on about my other political stuff currently. So this is my attempt at kind of detangling why I'm dead set against not voting for against voting for Donald Trump, because I am not a Trump supporter. I have to tell people that. I have to remind people that every once in a while because they are so in their NPC rabbit hole bubble partisan hack box that they think just because I'm attacking Joe Biden or attacking some kind of left-wing or liberal policy or idea, especially modern left-wing policies, that means that I'm a Republican or a right-winger or something. So I'm just going to extrapolate on this. Now, the first thing that he did that really turned me off this year was announce his wanting to have the death penalty for drug dealers. Now, this is a very old school, like war on crime policy idea that I find very reprehensible and very abhorrent. Now, that doesn't mean that I support like the zombie apocalypse that's happening in like Kensington, Philadelphia, for example, or want that for the nation. I think that there is definitely a wrong approach that they're taking in these big cities. They're not taking an approach. Like I had a relative that went to Portland recently, and he's like, they don't care. The politicians really don't care, what's going on. They just enjoy their riches. The neoliberal, establishment really likes just things to remain the same. They can pretend to care, and maybe they care a little bit, but overall it's a bunch of nonsense. So this whole idea of going to the extreme pendulum to the far right, or whatever you want to call it, of murdering drug dealers or whatever, I find to be just reprehensible. Now, I don't believe in the death penalty in general. I don't have faith in the government to be responsible for someone's life like that. Now, people may think this contradicts my next deal breaker with Donald Trump, of course, and you can feel free to say that, to have this, but I just don't feel like that's the case. I think there are better ways. There's things that kill at people all the time, that not only drugs, legal drugs, food. I know that that's been my main vice over the years, is like, I'll get depressed and I'll go to this place called Laredo's here. Back in the day, usually more often, like 2006. That's how I almost got 300 pounds. Now, that's not as bad as some people as far as weight for someone that's 5'11" and a half feet tall, but still, it's pretty bad. So, or 5 feet tall, 11 and a half inches, I should say. So, I'm losing weight. I lost 8 pounds in the last 2 months, thank God. Because I've been doing this intermittent fasting thing at work mainly. And I'm about to be doing a lot more workouts and stuff. I'm going to try to get back into that. I haven't gotten back into that, as well as the occult. Yeah. But anyways, just to scare people a little bit. So I don't like this whole idea of killing drug dealers. I just find it to be reprehensible. It's stupid. It's just stupid. It's just like Duarte and Philippines did that or whatever. I just find it stupid. I don't want the government to have the responsibility, or I don't want to put that thing into the government's hands. It's only turned out to be bad in the long run, in my opinion. Now, the thing is about that, the war on crime failed. You see the 80s got worse and worse. There was a lot more stringent, like 3 strikes laws and death penalty for certain types of people and certain types of. I just find it's too expensive in our legal system to have people appeal 5 times and then they're on death row for 20 years and they finally get killed. I find there to be cultural and other ideas that we can permeate into our reality, because Western countries do not have the same problems. A lot of Western countries don't have the death penalty, and they don't have the same problems that we do in America. So we got to look at the root causes of this. This is an old school liberal leftist idea that I have, maybe more liberal, but because according to some people that I'm more of a liberal than a leftist. I guess that could be said. So The second thing that I find reprehensible about Trump is like his recent thing about abortion. He's kind of made a little bit swerve to the far right again. So he was saying, abortion, he was attacking DeSantis. Now, the guy likes to skirt those issues and just be on the fence. But the fact of the matter is, stringent abortion law does not work either. If you look at some of the countries with the highest abortion rate, it's where they're legal. Now, the left has not looked, the gift horse in the mouth, or whatever the term is. I'm bad at some of those terms and stuff. Sometimes I mess them up, that's what I mean. I'm like George W. Bush, some of those terms. They haven't done that. So they've gone further left, quote unquote. It's not really left. It's just further into the idea that women should be able to abort up to the final day of birth. I mean, there's no greater illustration of this than the recent Tim Pool Lands from the Serfs debate. If you watch some of those clips, now I have to admit, like, Tim Pool is a mixed bag for me. I find him to be kind of cringe. He talks like Obama sometimes, like in this weird way. So it's like Chicago weird thing that he has. I'm not a big fan of his. I do like Stick, Sex, and Hammer. I still say I do. I don't like his Trump love, but I like a lot of his recent takes on stuff like abortion. Like, when you're talking about, basically partial birth abortion, maybe it's like 2 out of 100,000 people that get this procedure done. I'm just exaggerating. It might be more common than I think, but it's rarer than the most abortions. That's the whole point. It's still like, well, where are you going to draw the line? Like Europe is really interesting right now because, like, Northern Europe, and I always talk about this, they've been better on a lot of stuff than America, and now stuff is getting so weird here that people are. I saw this debate with who I think is really attractive in many ways, but what's her name? On Tim Pool, the girl from, it was on Young Turks and Majority Report or whatever, and Emma Vigeland, that's right. I used to have kind of a thing for her when I used to watch her on Young Turks, but so she was almost like saying, "Oh, there's far right government." It's like far right, maybe far right politicians. No, there's not. This has been a thing for a long time in Europe. They have these weird ideas of regulation. They'll regulate stuff. It's kind of like California's like plastic stuff. Like they'll talk about, like, they'll have these disclaimers on plastic or GMOs or whatever. So this kind of applies to like a lot of their protective things about I'm just gonna say the code word, vaccines. They're about the Cervenka bug vaccines. I'm still using code language. I don't care. I know it's loosened and relaxed, but just in case in the future, they actually are stricter about that, about age groups. Like I think they banned some of the Emily RNA vaccines for certain age groups. And they're far right. No, they're just like protective in this kind of like, it is a little bit of nanny state kind of ism with it, but at the same time it's like reasonable in this way, but not, maybe it goes a little far at times, So in regards to abortion, they're similarly like could be viewed like far right because they like have restrictions after certain points in trimesters. So it's kind of funny that the left has gone so loony in America, but not like in this like I say, I mean, it sounds very Marxist, but class conscious way. They've kind of, on purpose, in my opinion, they've thrown that in the trash in some ways. And I was even listening to a podcast, Angela Speaks, and on Gordon White's Ruined Soup last night, and she was talking about how they've done this, and there's like actual like studies about how or not studies, but this has been acknowledged that they are throwing away. They're focusing on identitarianism to distract from the rich people taking more of the loot, but they have this excuse of wokeism and stuff. And I've said this millions of times, and now it's being like kind of confirmed to me because I had a suspicion about that. Anyways, that's not what this video is about kind of gone off the rails. So Trump, if he's actually serious about these ideas, to me it's just an I can't go there. I can never go there. I find him sometimes really hilarious in this unintentional way. He's very much like Andrew Dice Clay. He's like a comedian and stand-up. Some of his impressions and stuff are pretty funny. So it's in a way like I don't respect him, but I like some of its entertainment. For me. But I could not vote for him for many reasons, but more than this. But these are the big deal breakers for me. I don't believe that you should assassinate or murder drug dealers. The Muslim ban was completely contradictory to itself because it let people from Saudi Arabia in carte blanche because he had business dealings there. I think that kind of thing is sick, but I will put it this way. Like, I don't know if it was Anton LaVey once that said he would rather have a corrupt dictator than like a ideological one. It's kind of this old school idea that the person that's a true believer into something is far more dangerous than the guy who's just like kind of trying to con people. I think that there are people that are more dangerous than Donald Trump out there, is my point. But of course people aren't focusing on that. Now, I do not want Trump as president. Now, who would I prefer? Like I said, I don't know. It's a toss-up. I think, at least as far as like the idea that like we were relatively at peace pre-COVID, of course. I said the word. Whatever. We were relatively at peace. There was relative prosperity to now. Back when Trump was president, would I rather live in 2018 and 2019 than now? Absolutely, of course, definitely, or 2010 for that matter when Obama was president. I think, but as far as like who do I prefer, I think they're both reprehensible. Obviously, there are some good things about Trump though. I mean that's a fact, but I can't. But the real deal breakers for me, are those old school Republican right wing. Talking points, war and crime nonsense, and pro-life crap, evangelical crap. So to conclude, this is not a thought experiment. This is my thought. I have to clear this up. Okay, the Democrats want us to live in zombie land. You see the trank zombies like huddled in the corner, in downtown metropolitan areas. They're not doing anything about that. The Republicans want us to live in handmaid's tale. So both are horrible lives to live. And the WEF wants us to live in like Brave New World 1984, some of those people. And they're working with they're working with both parties, both sides, but the Democrats seem to be more like willing to implement their policies nowadays, like the top level, like mainstream neo-lib parties. So, but I hate them both. I hate both parties. I like the populist thing to some extent on the right wing side to some extent, but then they just they ruin it for themselves. We're going to see that, more and more. Unfortunately, they ruin it for themselves. And they ruin it just with this old school crap, I just don't like it. I just don't like the ideas of that. It's a deal breaker for me. That's a deal breaker. Now, if he would have done his 2000 platform for the Reform Party, I'd probably vote for him. Dare I say, I support that. But I support a certain Kennedy right now. And I don't agree with everything that Kennedy does, and even the Maxine thing I'm a little mixed on. But I think the guy he was an environmental lawyer for like 30 years or something. He had all these lawsuits that he was involved in. He got to look at all this information, and he believes this narrative because the way that he processes information and facts with regards to his day job, whatever you want to call it, has led him to these conclusions. Now, do I believe that those conclusions are correct? I think there's no harm in studying those things and trying to figure it out. he would get so much pushback anyways from big pharma and everything like that. It's just no doubt. I mean, it's not going to happen. They're not going to, but if there's more safety things, like in Europe, by the way, more safety things and vaccines, just like, the mercury thing, all this stuff, like Europe actually did that before the United States did anything like that. These regulations and stuff. I say I'm all for that. I'm all for looking into maybe if these things are causing bad things in kids. I don't believe the autism thing necessarily. I think people are self-diagnosing themselves. I think there's a mixture of, there's better diagnostic criteria that is being used. There's a mixture of things, and maybe there's a contributory element. Maybe it's the foods, maybe it's the air, maybe it's something like that. Who knows? We could study all these things. We could have an open dialogue without attacking the man. Now, as everything else in regards to his whole thing, I do like, except for his allegiance to the whole Israeli regime, which he's kind of almost called into question himself more recently with Glenn Greenwald and stuff. His whole, he's kind of more establishment as far as economics to some extent. It's like an old school Democrat with regards to that. And I'm a little mixed on that, Are we going to need AI, UBI for AI? I don't know, but he's against the main deal maker for me with RFK was his opposition to CBDCs, and maybe that's because he has Bitcoin investments. I don't know, but if he's actually against that 100%, then I'm all for him. So that's something to think about, because that's the scariest thing to me. That's the scariest thing in our society right now, beyond all this other than nuclear war, is the CBDC idea. But for various reasons, it scares the living crap out of me. So anyways, that's about all.